In this city that never sleeps, John Wick was struggling to find peace. His wife, Helen, had recently passed away, leaving him with a void that seemed impossible to fill. In an attempt to help him cope, Helen had arranged for John to receive a beagle puppy named Daisy. But John's fragile stability was shattered when a group of Russian gangsters, led by the arrogant Yosef Tarasov, accosted him at a gas station. They demanded that John sell them his prized 1969 Boss for $129 Mustang, but he refused. That night, Yosef and his goons broke into John's home, assaulting him, killing Daisy, and stealing the car. Yosef's reckless actions set off a chain reaction of events that would put him and his family in the crosshairs of John Wick's wrath. The stolen Mustang was taken to a chop shop, where the owner, Aurelio, recognized the car and refused to cooperate with Yosef. Aurelio's warning to Yosef fell on deaf ears. But he did inform John that Yosef was the son of Viga Tarasov, the powerful boss of New York City's Russian mafia. Viga Tarasov, the powerful boss of New York City's Russian mafia, was furious when he learned of his son Yosef's reckless actions. Yosef had crossed John Wick, a former hitman who had once worked for Viga and was now facing the consequences of his actions. Viga berated Yosef for incurring John's wrath, revealing the true extent of John's deadly reputation. John was once known and feared in the criminal underworld as the Baba Yaga, a ruthless and relentless hitman who was nearly impossible to stop. His reputation was built on his unwavering focus, commitment, and sheer will. Viga recalled how John had fallen in love with Helen, a civilian, and had sought to leave his life as a hitman behind. Viga had given John a seemingly impossible task to earn his freedom, and to his surprise, John had succeeded. Despite this, Viga knew that John's past would always be a part of him, and that he would stop at nothing to protect those he cared about. John Wick, fueled by rage and a desire for vengeance, recovered a concealed stash from his former career as a hitman. The stash included an arsenal of weapons and a hoard of gold coins, which John used to prepare for his war against Viga Tarasov and his son Yosef. Viga, attempting to make amends, sent a team of hitmen to John's home, but John was ready. He killed the entire squad, sending a clear message to Viga that he would not be intimidated. Viga, enraged by John's defiance, put a $2 million bounty on his head and enlisted the services of John's former mentor, Marcus. John, knowing he had to be careful, lodged at the Continental, a luxurious hotel that served as neutral ground for the underworld. The hotel's owner, Winston, an old friend of John's, provided him with valuable information, revealing that Yosef was hiding at a nightclub called Red Circle. John infiltrated Red Circle intent on confronting Yosef, but he was ambushed by Viga's henchman, Kirill. Forced to retreat, John returned to the Continental for medical attention, his war with Viga far from over. As John Wick rested at the Continental, a hitwoman named Miss Perkins sneaked into his room, intent on collecting the bounty on his head. But John's former mentor, Marcus, was watching from an adjacent building, and he fired a warning shot to alert John to the danger. John woke up just in time to subdue Perkins, who revealed that Viga had doubled the bounty on his head and had hidden a valuable stash in a church. John, seeking to use Perkins as leverage, hired another hitman, Harry, to secure her. But Perkins proved to be a formidable opponent, and she killed Harry and escaped. John was left to ponder his next move, knowing that Perkins would stop at nothing to complete her mission. The stakes had been raised, and John was now more determined than ever to take down Viga and his empire. With Perkins on the loose, John knew he had to be constantly on guard, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. At the church, John Wick destroyed Viga's cache of cash and extensive blackmail material, dealing a significant blow to the Russian mafia boss's empire. When Viga arrived to assess the damage, John assaulted him and his men, but was hit by Kirill's car and captured. As Viga gloated over his capture, John told him that he would not stop until Yosef was dead. The puppy, Daisy, had given him hope and a chance to cope with his grief over Helen's passing. John's words were laced with venom, and Vigo knew that he had underestimated the depth of John's pain and anger. Marcus, John's former mentor, again intervened to save his life, allowing John to escape and kill Kirill. With Vigo's men closing in, John threatened Vigo into revealing Iosif's location in a safe house. John attacked the safe house and killed Yosef, finally avenging Daisy's death. As John stood over Iosif's lifeless body, Marcus encouraged him to return to his everyday life, to leave the violence and bloodshed behind. But Perkins, the hit woman, had witnessed their conversation, and she revealed Marcus's duplicity to Vigo. Vigo, enraged by Marcus's betrayal, had him tortured and killed. As John tried to walk away from the violence, Vigo's taunts drew him back into the cycle of bloodshed, ensuring that the war between them was far from over. Winston, the owner of the Continental, had Perkins executed for breaking the hotel's rules, a stark reminder of the consequences of betraying the underworld's code of honor. Winston then informed John that Vigo was preparing to leave the city by helicopter, a move that would allow him to escape justice. John, driven by his desire for vengeance, raced to New York Harbor, where he engaged in a fierce battle with Vigo. Despite his injuries, John managed to mortally wound Vigo, finally avenging the death of his beloved dog, Daisy. As John lay dying from his injuries, he watched a video of his late wife, Helen, on his phone. The video showed Helen telling John that it was time for them to go home, a poignant reminder of the life they had shared. The video gave John the strength to carry on, and he broke into a nearby animal clinic to treat his wounds. As he recovered, John adopted a pit bull puppy that was scheduled to be euthanized, giving the dog a second chance at life. With his new companion by his side, John began to walk home, ready to start a new chapter in his life, one that would be filled with hope and redemption. John was born Jordany Jovanovich somewhere in the Belarusian SSR of the Soviet Union to a Rusker-Roma family on September 2, 1964. He was orphaned at a young age before being taken in by an old friend of his father, Winston, who would eventually become John's mentor. It is revealed in the John Wick comic book miniseries that he spent a significant portion of his adolescence in El Salvador de Rodriguez and Sonata, Mexico. At one point, he was recruited by a Rusker-Roma organized crime group and trained by its leader, a woman known as the Director, in New York City. Under the Director's supervision, John was trained as a hitman and learned combat skills in martial arts, firearms and other weaponry, tactical driving, infiltration, escapology, and more. After leaving the Rusker-Roma organization, he was arrested for an unspecified crime and incarcerated. Upon release, he was manipulated into joining the underground crime world operating out of the Continental hotel chain. John became the top enforcer for the New York Russian crime syndicate, becoming an infamous hitman. He was nicknamed Baba Yaga after the supernatural boogeyman-like entity in Slavic folklore. Eventually, John fell in love with a woman named Helen. Hoping to pursue a normal life, he met with Vigio Tarasov, boss of the Tarasov mob, who agreed to grant him his freedom if he could carry out what was described as an impossible task, implying that Wick was not expected to survive the mission. In order to accomplish his goal, Wick requested assistance from Camorra crime boss Santino D'Antonio, and subsequently ended up owing him a blood oath called a marker. John eliminated all of Tarasov's major rivals, thus enabling Tarasov to become one of New York's most powerful crime bosses. John retired and settled down with Helen, his reputation now legendary, and the two lived happily together in New Jersey for 5 years until Helen's death from an unspecified illness.